Hello everyone! Back again with me, who will discuss cool movies and give you goosebumps. How are our loyal viewers doing? Do you still often have dreams when you sleep? Whether it's a beautiful dream, an absurd dream, or even being chased by zombies. If so, relax, because this time I will discuss and review a movie that is not only unique, but also full of suspense. The title is Before I Wake, 2016. This movie tells the story of the supernatural experienced by a pair of parents after they adopt a little boy who turns out to have extraordinary abilities. Curious, right? Don't let yourself dream of meeting your ex just because you're curious. Let's get started. The story begins with a tense scene, showing a man named Waylon who looks desperate and ready to finish off his adopted son who is fast asleep.
I'm sorry, Cody.
But why did he go to such lengths? What's really going on? Moving on to the other main characters, a young nurse named Jessie and her husband, Mark. They decide to adopt a child from a home called Orphan Care. The decision was made because they wanted to start a new life and slowly forget the deep sadness of the loss of their son, Sean. The head of the orphanage named Natalie then suggested a child named Cody. This child has been an orphan since he was 3 years old and had moved between foster families. Unfortunately, most of the families rejected him, even the last one almost hurt him, because he had a psychological disorder. In fact, Cody is known as a sweet, polite, and very obedient child. But because of these bad experiences, Cody was deeply traumatized and suffered from severe insomnia. After hearing the story, Jessie and Mark felt compassion and decided to adopt Cody. They began preparing their home to welcome this new family member. On the first floor, they organized their belongings, including photos of their late son, Sean. Jessie asked permission to keep one of their family photos hanging on the wall as a memory. Later that night, Jessie was restless and unable to sleep. She walks into Sean's room in the attic. It's clear that she still hasn't fully recovered from the emotional scars of her son's passing. The feeling of guilt still lingers inside Jessie, because her negligence caused Sean to die from drowning in the bathtub. The wound still looms, as if it hasn't really healed. The next morning, Jessie and Mark welcomed Natalie, who escorted Cody warmly. When they met, Mark was surprised because Cody immediately reached out to shake hands. It was quite surprising, considering that not all children his age have such a formal and good attitude. After a brief introduction, Jessie and Mark invited Natalie and Cody into the house. Again, they were impressed when Cody spontaneously took off his shoes before stepping inside, a polite habit rarely seen from other children in general. Once in the living room, Mark pointed out the various amenities available in their home, including an Xbox console and Wi-Fi access that could be used at any time. However, instead of being interested in all that, Cody stares at a family photo hanging on the living room wall. There was a look in his eyes that seemed to hold a longing for family. Arriving at the room, Cody looks very happy when he sees the curtains decorated with butterflies. He liked the motif so much that his face lit up. He sincerely thanked Jessie and Mark for their warm welcome and care. Night fell. Jessie and Mark took Cody to bed because the next day he would start his new school. However, after they left the room, Cody didn't go straight to sleep. Instead, he opens a mysterious box that he always carries around. The next day, Mark was seen taking Cody to school.
Everyone ready?
But as the afternoon approached, Cody seemed restless again. The trauma of his past still haunts him. Jessie, who noticed Cody's attitude, began to feel worried. But Mark tried to calm him down and said that everything would go smoothly over time. A few moments later, when Jessie was tidying up the wardrobe, she found Cody's personal box. When she opened it, the contents confused her. There were several bottles of drinks and anti-drowsiness medication inside. Later that night, after accompanying him to read a book, Mark asks Cody to go to bed. But before going to bed, a curious Jesse finally asked Cody directly about the reason he regularly took the drug. With a quiet voice and serious expression, Cody explains that he deliberately stays awake so as not to fall asleep. He wants to avoid the terror of the creepy figure that always comes in his dreams, the creature he refers to as Cankerman. Hearing this, Jesse tried to calm Cody down. She tries to convince him that the horrible figure is just his imagination and a shadow of his own fears. Jesse said that with time, the nightmare would disappear and everything would get better. However, as the night wore on, things got stranger. Jessie, who was relaxing watching television in the living room, was suddenly confused when she saw many butterflies appearing and flying in the house.
Have you ever seen this many?
That same night, Jessie was accidentally stung by a black moth that flew over. Meanwhile, Mark looked very happy because he managed to catch a butterfly that had flown in the house. However, they were completely unaware that behind the door of the house, a small tall creature was standing silently watching them from a distance. Suddenly, all the butterflies that had previously filled the room suddenly vanished, including the butterfly that Mark had managed to catch, just disappearing as if it had never existed. The two of them could only look at each other with confused expressions, wondering what exactly was going on. Towards midnight, Jessie, who felt thirsty, decided to go down to the kitchen. But while she was pouring water, her ears caught the sound of footsteps from upstairs. Feeling curious, she went back up to the second floor, especially because she felt like she saw the figure of her late son, Sean. The next day, at school, Cody experienced a strange incident. He witnessed a wayward student named Tom who was punished for being caught eating the cafeteria guard's fried food without permission. Cody just watched it with a blank stare, as if his mind was elsewhere. Later that night, Jessie approached Cody, who seemed to be daydreaming while staring at their family photo. At that time, Mark tried to comfort him and conveyed that Sean, their biological son, was now at peace in the universe. Hearing this, Cody innocently said that maybe his mother was also now at peace with Sean there.
Looks fun.
Are you in fear of losing your car?
As the night wore on and Cody finally fell asleep, another odd occurrence happened. Mark, who was in the living room, suddenly felt a butterfly land on his hand, as if signaling the beginning of something strange. Not long after, Jessie, who woke up from her sleep, was shocked to see Sean appear in front of her, wearing the exact same clothes as in the family photo. However, as Cody wakes up at the same time, Sean's figure slowly disappears, vanishing into thin air. Jessie, who was still confused at the time, felt that Sean's existence felt so real. He even smelled his son's distinctive scent that he knew so well. But the strangeness grew when Cody, who had just woken up, suddenly apologized for no apparent reason.
I'm sorry.
The next morning, Cody finally ventured to reveal something to Jessie and Mark. He claims to have a strange ability. Whatever he dreams in his sleep will come true in the real world. Even nightmares. Cody also vows that he will never sleep again so as not to bring up terrible things from his subconscious. However, instead of being terrified, Jessie feels that this power is a great gift, something extraordinary and not to be feared. After days of longing and loss, Jessie suddenly gets a pretty desperate idea.
I wish we could have heard his voice.
She wants to try to bring Sean back to life through Cody's dream abilities. Jessie showed Cody a video of Sean's life, hoping to stir the boy's emotions to dream of him. However, Cody looked doubtful. His face showed confusion about Jessie's intentions, as if he understood that the request carried a great burden.
When's the last time you had a real
Meanwhile, Jessie and Mark were unable to hide their tears as they watched their moments with Sean in the video. Emotion enveloped them both, bringing back memories that they had been trying to bury. Later that night, Jessie, who was overwhelmed by the hope of seeing Sean soon, persuaded Cody to go to bed. As the night wore on, Jessie tried to stay awake, looking busy preparing coffee while waiting for another miracle to come.
Jess?
And sure enough, just like the previous night's miracle, a figure of Sean appeared again. This time, not only that, even Sean's reflection is clearly visible in the mirror of their house, as if the dream has fully formed reality.
Cody.
But along with that appearance, the terror that has been haunting Cody also appeared. The figure of Cantor Man, a creature that has only lived in Cody's nightmares, comes and approaches him. Cody wakes up with his breath catching, and everything in the room disappears in an instant. Instead of feeling peaceful, Jessie and Mark are dragged back into a deeper vortex of grief. They realize that bringing Sean back through dreams does not make them move on, but rather revives old wounds that have not healed.
Boys are home!
In the afternoon, Cody notices Jessie's behavior, who returns to displaying all photos of Sean in various corners of the house. Mark begins to realize that his wife is now increasingly obsessed and spoils Cody not out of love, but because Jessie wants to continue to use Cody's dream ability to call back their son. In fact, their original goal of adopting Cody was to be able to slowly move on with life, to heal, not reopen wounds. But Jessie was adamant. She tries to convince Mark that her intentions are not selfish. She also cares about Cody's condition, and hopes that by helping him face his dream, it can heal the trauma that has been frightening him. The next day, Cody comes to school carrying a small jar of butterflies that he caught the night before. With an innocent look on his face, he wants to show his catch to his friend Ani, not knowing that behind the jar, a big plan is happening without his knowledge. The sound of the jar shattering made all the students turn their heads. Ani, who saw the incident, immediately reprimanded Tom, telling him to stop being so familiar.
18?
Yes.
While the lesson was going on, Cody seemed to be having trouble resisting sleepiness. He even pinched his own arm to stay awake. But the fatigue continued to gnaw at his body until the break time arrived, so he ventured to ask the teacher for permission to take a short nap in the classroom. In the school corridor, the notoriously troublemaking Tom was watching Cody from a distance. His face showed unkind intentions, as if waiting for the right moment to act. In his heart, he felt that Cody should be taught a lesson. This is what happens when you get along with people you don't know, he thought to himself. Later that night, after the strange incident that had come back to haunt him, Cody tried to keep from falling asleep. He sipped coffee left over from the Leightonbaugh syrup while enduring the overwhelming fatigue. But as the silence of the night envelopes the room, Cody panics. A mysterious voice is heard from under his bed. Elsewhere, Jessie, who woke up from her sleep, suddenly saw the figure of Sean, who was mumbling in front of her. But apparently, it was just a hallucination. Without realizing it, Jessie actually fell asleep while imagining her son again. In the morning, Cody, who had just returned from school, was surprised to find 2 officers waiting at home. They came to ask for information regarding the disappearance of Tom, the student who was last seen during recess yesterday. That afternoon, after a disturbing nightmare, Jesse and Mark try to make Cody's room more comfortable. They add a new bed in the shape of a toy car, hoping to make Cody feel safer. After arranging the room, Jesse invites Cody to prepare dinner together. In the dining room, Mark informed them that 2 officers would be coming back to conduct further investigations. But when Cody tried to convey this to Jesse, the mother ignored him and told Cody to focus on dinner again. Night falls. Jesse, who was still obsessed with Sean's presence, secretly put sleeping pills in Cody's snack.
This is our tic-tac-toe game. Hey. What's this?
There you go. Welcome.
It doesn't take long, Cody starts to feel sleepy and eventually falls asleep. Cody was a very good boy, polite, gentle, and always obedient. Jesse and Mark feel more comfortable with his presence. But their warm togetherness suddenly turns into a moment of tension when they see Sean standing by the black box in the corner of the room. Jesse is convinced that Cody is having a nightmare, and rushes to wake him up.
Cody. Wake up!
Mark.
You won't wake up!
But Mark stopped her. In a soft voice, he said, "He won't wake up. I've given him sleeping pills." In the early hours of the next morning, the police arrived and started the investigation. Deputy Nanong, who led the investigation, began to suspect irregularities in Jesse's testimony. Not wanting to endanger Cody further, he decided to report back to social services. Later that night, Jessie, who was beginning to realize her mistake, was overcome with regret. Not only has she lost Sean, but now that Cody has vanished into thin air, she is haunted by a deep sense of guilt. The next day, Jessie went to the social service office to look for Natalie, determined to find out Cody's whereabouts. But her intention was rejected. Natalie firmly advises her to have her psychological condition checked first before applying for custody again. In the midst of the heated debate, unbeknownst to Natalie, Jessie managed to retrieve a secret file. When she opens it, she finds shocking information: the identity of Cody's biological parents. His father, whose name is Wolin, is a person who is undergoing rehabilitation for attempted murder. Although initially reluctant to bring up the dark past, Wulan is finally willing to tell everything. With eyes full of regret, she recounted her one-year experience of taking care of Cody. At that time, Wulan and her husband, Katie, were amazed and happy with Cody's presence. The child was so special. But everything changed when Cody developed a high fever, an event that re-triggered his childhood trauma about the death of his biological mother. That's when Cody begins to exhibit strange abilities. He unconsciously awakens a creepy figure called the Canker Man, a mysterious entity that seems to emerge from the shadows of trauma and grief. After the tragic incident,
I'm sorry.
Wulan, who was still overwhelmed with loss, tried to bring back Katie, her husband, through Cody's dreams. She hoped to feel that warmth even if only through dream projection. But unfortunately, what appeared was not the Katie she knew. Instead, it was something more sinister and unfamiliar. Stricken with deep despair, Wulan thought of ending Cody's life to stop the horrific cycle that kept repeating itself. However, with a heavy voice and teary eyes, she admitted that she couldn't do it. Even though she believed the child was the cause of many of the oddities, she still couldn't hurt Cody. Hearing this story, Jessie became even more curious. She begins to dig deeper, wanting to understand why the horrifying figure from the mirror can appear, and how it's all related to Cody's past, even his mother's death. In the afternoon, Jesse, who has discovered the identity of Cody's biological mother, goes to Marion Hospital to find out more. There, a hospital staff named Andreas explains that he was once assigned to retrieve documents and items belonging to the late Andrea, Cody's biological mother. Back at home, Jessie opened the relics. She finds a stuffed butterfly and the diary Andrea wrote before she died. The diary holds many secrets, including Andrea's deep fear of something that seems to keep looming over her life. Meanwhile, at the shelter, the perpetually rebellious Cody appears to be emotionally unstable. The nurses are forced to give him tranquilizers to calm him down. As night falls and the atmosphere becomes more tense, Jessie secretly infiltrates the shelter building where Cody is being treated. The building was quiet, too quiet, like it held something invisible. As she walks down a dark hallway, she is startled by a swarm of black butterflies that suddenly flutter past her. But the most terrifying thing came afterward. Jessie was suddenly shocked when she saw Natalie, a social service officer, in a terrible condition, trapped in a huge cocoon hanging from the ceiling. Transfixed and confused, Jessie thought it was just a nightmare, but everything felt real. Realizing that something truly unnatural was happening, Jessie tried to stay alert. As the tension mounts, a Cankerman entity appears and tries to shake her mentally, showing her flashbacks of Andrea's death in the most gruesome way possible. But Jessie, now unwilling to sink into fear, forced herself to remain standing. She continues her search, until she finally goes deeper into the building, and is shocked to see rows of human cocoons hanging. They all seem to have fallen victim to the dark forces surrounding Cody. As Jessie looks at the butterfly doll that Cody always carries, the Cankerman figure suddenly stops moving. Now everything becomes clear. The monstrous creature is not just an evil entity, but a tangible manifestation of the deep trauma Cody has experienced since childhood. Gently, Jessie calms Cody down, then hugs him while placing the butterfly doll on his chest. The doll seemed to be a symbol of the love and beautiful memories left from his mother. After things started to calm down, Jessie immediately took Cody home. But before leaving, she asked Cody to release all the nurses who were previously trapped in the cocoon of her imagination. The next day, Jessie gives a diary left by Andrea, Cody's biological mother, for the boy to read. In the note, Andrea recounts her struggle to raise Cody alone after losing her husband. Although it was hard, Andrea felt that having Cody was a miracle. The child's extraordinary abilities allowed her to survive the harshness of life. But everything changed when Cody was 2 years old. Andrea was diagnosed with cancer, and the innocent Cody didn't understand what the deadly disease meant. He thought cancer was a horrible monster, and this is how the haunting mirror creature was born. In the last days of her life, Andrea, whose condition is getting weaker, writes a final message, that even though her body is no longer there, she will always accompany Cody, through memories and love that will never die. The monster figure from the mirror turns out to be the result of Cody's imagination, who cannot accept his mother's physical changes that are slowly deteriorating due to illness. Now, after knowing everything, Jessie begins to understand that Cody is not an ordinary child. He is a special child who is able to project his imagination into reality. Childhood trauma, fear, even love, all can be realized through his power. With a hopeful ending, we are invited to see that behind fear, there is always love and hope that can heal everything. Thank you for watching until the end. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. That's all, and thank you. See you in the next video.